In this module, we're going to focus now on transforming data. So almost every researcher will load a data set, but will have to, in some way, transform variables. And so I just want to go over kind of the two different ways to do this in R. And so as you'll recall, we have this data set, RM data, okay, with happiness, job satisfaction, and job stress. But let's say we wanted to transform one of the variables. In this case, we're going to transform the happy variable. Now, to do this, you need to understand kind of the naming conventions in R. And what we'll see here, as I've written, is that we're going to create this new variable, but it's also a function of the old variable. And they both have the same naming convention here. Notice, we have included the name of the data frame or the data set first, RM data, which is over here. And then the $ says, okay, that is, now that's the data set, this is the variable. So to refer to RM, to this variable, okay, happy in RM data, we use a convention RM data $happy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable called RM data happy 00. And all that means is we're going to take the original variable and multiply it by 100. So let's run that and see what happens. You'll see that now RM data has 6 variables. And we can look at that. And we have happy 00 over here, which is simply happy times 100. Now, you can do whatever you want. Okay, you could log this, you could divide it, you could subtract it, but there are all sorts of different transformations that researchers use. But this is the key naming convention that you need to remember. It's the data frame $ variable, okay, because you'll use this quite a bit. Now another way to do this, if you have a lot of variables, is to use this dplyr package. Okay, this is one of the most popular packages in R. And what you'll need to do is go to this tab down here, packages. So I mentioned this in some of the first slides that R and RStudio will use a number of different packages. And so what you need to do, these are all created by different users. All right. And so when you click on packages, you can see all of these different packages that are down here. You'll go to install, click on install, and you'll look for a package, okay? And you'll click on this package and you'll click install. I'm not going to do that because I already have it. So install that package. It'll take a few minutes probably. And you might want to click pause right now while you're doing that. And then when you have it done, we're going to learn about a different way to transform variables. Now, the dplyr package has a function known as mutate, okay? But let me back up for 1 second. Before you can use a package, you also have to invoke it with this library command. So even though you've installed it, I don't believe I've run it. So if I did this, okay, notice how it says error and mutate, right? That's because I haven't called the package yet, so to speak. The way you do that is to use the library command. So when you do that, you've just told R to basically open the package so that you can use it. And so it says attaching the package, and then we'll talk about different objects that are masked from other packages that might be used. And so you want to look at these red lines because they're usually errors. Sometimes they're not that big of a deal. And I would say that I don't usually have too many conflicts between the packages. So with that said, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, let's create a new data set. This is the terminology of dplyr. New data set, okay, RM data test, right? And then we're going to use what it's called the mutate command. Now mutate is basically transform, okay? You can think of it as transform. And it's in the verbiage here is, okay, you put in the data set, RM data, we're using this data set, and we're going to create these 3 new variables. And I just picked these transformations. You can do whatever you want. Again, job stress 00 is job stress times 100. Job satisfaction 00 is job sat times 100. I think I said 1,000 earlier. And log job stress is log 5 plus job stress. Now, why did I put a 5 there? Because most of us naturally just use a 1, but it turns out job stress can be negative, have a value more negative than 1, and then it won't compute that because you can't take the log of that. So what I'm going to do is highlight this whole thing, right? And I'm going to click, I'm going to have it run. You can run. And you can see this is a new data set, okay? And we now have these new variables that are listed. Log job stress, job sat 00, job stress 00. Okay, so it's pretty cool. All right, now I should also note that if you wanted to, you could just take away that test and just say RM data, mutate RM data, okay? Notice how RM data has 6 variables right here. If we run this, RM data now has 9 variables. So if you wanted to attach these new variables to the same data set, you would do it that way, okay? So I just did it that way just to show you. And then finally, in terms of transformations, sometimes you'll need to rename a variable. Okay, and this is the code for that. In RM data test, we're going to rename using this database, RM data test. We're going to call this old variable, job stress 00, job stress 2. And so we'll run that and we'll open this up. All right, and we have now job stress 2. Okay, so that's just a different way to rename it. So as you think about these commands, they can be confusing, all right? But that's why I've included this code, because you can just copy this code and paste, and I suggest that you do that. And you can go to other sources and copy and paste code. The code is here. Have you already forgotten perhaps that the naming convention is data frame $variable? Maybe you have. It doesn't matter because the code's right here. Okay, so with that, you've now learned how to transform variables and rename variables. And in the next section, we'll talk about how to actually summarize your data with summary statistics and correlations.